You mortals go about your work, your loves, your wars, as if your waking lives are all that matter.
After tragically losing his son, Roderick Burgess turns toward dark magic in hopes of resurrecting his deceased child. One afternoon, Roderick is visited by Dr. Hathaway, a museum worker who hands him a powerful book filled with ancient spells. Using this grimoire, the sorcerer finds a ritual to summon the Angel of Death. Thanks to the assistance of a witch coven, Roderick completes the ritual as the runes light up in flames. At the other end of the city, Morpheus, the Lord of Dreams and Nightmares, goes after a rogue nightmare named 𝐒𝐞𝐚𝐬𝐲𝐽. Being a powerful supernatural creature, Morpheus easily overpowers the 𝐒𝐞𝐚𝐬𝐲𝐽 and is seconds away from destroying him when he forcefully gets summoned from the scene. Right then, he lands in Roderick's basement as the ritual pulls him into the sorcerer's house. An unconscious Morpheus is robbed of his ruby, pouch, and helm, all of which are sources of his power. Roderick strips the Lord of Dreams completely naked and confines him in a binding circle as he waits for Morpheus to regain consciousness. The following day, a devious 𝐒𝐞𝐚𝐬𝐲𝐽 learns of his master's capture and pays Roderick a visit. Wanting to keep Morpheus forever imprisoned in the sorcerer's basement, the rogue nightmare tells Roderick all about Morpheus's weaknesses and powers. It turns out that Morpheus has total control of humans in their dream state, and as such, can manipulate anyone that falls asleep in his presence. In addition, his ruby alongside his other tools grants its wielder everlasting youth and bountiful riches. Learning this, Roderick gets a glass chamber to contain the supernatural being, and orders all his guards to stay awake by taking meds when they watch over him. Days later, Morpheus finally regains consciousness, with Roderick promising to release him if he fulfills his demands. The bereaved father explains the original target of his ritual was the Angel of Death, but instead, the spell summoned the Lord of Dreams. Despite this mishap, a determined Roderick asks Morpheus for help returning his son. However, the Lord of Dreams remains mute and ignores the sorcerer as a disappointed Roderick exits the basement. Meanwhile, Morpheus's capture leads to catastrophic repercussions in the outside world. Many cities and towns are plagued with a myriad of sleeping illnesses as millions go to bed but remain trapped in the dream world. Others long for sleep but never get any, while the rest live as habitual sleepwalkers. Despite this illness, Roderick refuses to let Morpheus go as days trickle to months, and months to years, until finally, an entire decade passes. One afternoon, Roderick's adopted son Alex visits the basement. He's empathetic toward Morpheus and finds his captivity to be exceptionally cruel. He apologizes to him for his father's actions and promises to free him someday. When an angry Roderick overhears this, he raises his cane to strike Alex. However, before the attack lands, the sorcerer is distracted by a peering crow outside his window. Roderick recalls the 𝐒𝐞𝐚𝐬𝐲𝐽 had warned him years ago about crows, as Morpheus had a faithful bird named 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐲𝐽. Roderick hands Alex a gun and sends him to hunt down the bird. The frightened son follows his father's instruction and finds 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐲𝐽 in the basement, trying to free Morpheus. Hesitant, Alex slowly shoots the bird down as Morpheus looks on in dismay, witnessing the death of his trusted pet. Despite this, the Lord of Dreams remains mute and maintains his trend of years of silence. Days later, Roderick's mistress Ethel gets pregnant. Ethel desperately wants to keep the baby, but Roderick disapproves and commands her to abort it. In light of this, the pregnant mistress steals a massive chunk of Roderick's wealth, and alongside it, Morpheus's ruby, pouch, and helm, which were in Roderick's possession. On learning this, the sorcerer returns to Morpheus and asks for his help in finding Ethel. When Morpheus ignores him yet again, Roderick loses his cool and bangs his cane at the being's glass prison. A caring Alex stops him, but this only angers the old man as he attacks his son with the cane. Alex then nudges Roderick back in self-defense, causing the sorcerer to bang his head on the glass prison. The old man falls to the ground, with blood oozing out of his head, and ultimately dies. With his father gone, Alex finally has liberty to free Morpheus if he wishes. The next morning, Alex and his friend Paul visit the basement. Alex wants to free Morpheus, but is hesitant for fear of his vengeance. Due to his uncertainty about the being's intentions, Alex asks Morpheus to promise he'd not harm anyone in the household. Morpheus considers his proposal, but decides against it and remains mute upon remembering Alex had killed his trusted pet, 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐸. Alex is disappointed by Morpheus's silence and decides against freeing him. Decades eventually pass, with Alex and Paul reaching old age, while Morpheus remains ever young. One night, Alex and Paul pay Morpheus one last visit to offer the Lord of Dreams freedom in exchange for protection. However, as always, Morpheus remains mute. As they exit the basement, Alex's wheelchair disrupts the binding room that suppresses Morpheus's powers. This allows the supernatural creature to put one of the guards in a dreamlike state and manipulate him into destroying his glass prison. With this, Morpheus easily takes down the guards and is finally free after a century of captivity. Once freed, Morpheus goes to an aged Alex and puts him in a state of endless sleep as punishment, before returning to his kingdom, the Dreaming. On his arrival, Morpheus is welcomed by his royal librarian, Lucian. Lucian informs him that the Dreaming had severely deteriorated in his absence, with most of the kingdom's inhabitants leaving the realm for the human world. As a result, the mortal realm is full of raging dreams and nightmares. Learning this, a determined Morpheus vows to bring them all back and return balance to the world.